My questions are literally going to be in the sense of genuine enthusiasm.
I love that question. Oh my God.
I see you getting such good, beautiful tidbits of the artists' lives.
Welcome to Genuine Enthusiasm. I'm excited. I'm genuinely enthused about my next guest. I'm excited to do this interview. Her name is Sarai Nichole, a Black Canadian poet and writer whose work explores grief, womanhood, and emotional inheritance. She's the author of the Amazon best-selling poetry collection, Excerpts from My Journal. I first became aware of Saray's work through a wonderful connection, Nicole. I've had the pleasure of knowing her mom, Nicole, and through that connection, Saray came onto my radar. Saray, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I'm genuinely enthusiastic.
Love it. Love it. Do you like my rubber ducky, by the way?
I love it. I was actually going to say I love your setup.
Really?
Yes.
What would you name this rubber ducky?
I'm getting George.
George.
I'm getting George. It's really speaking to me.
I understand.
Yeah.
I like it. So
Yeah.
there you go. For future episodes, meet George.
Love it.
All right. So let's get into this. We have some serious, important questions to ask you.
Okay.
All right.
I'm willing and
So
ready.
let's get into it.
Okay.
Let's tell us a little bit about your background and how your journey as a writer began.
Oh, okay. My name is Sarai Nichole, my pen name. I am 23 years old, currently based in Fergus, Ontario, a very small town. I am an author, a writer, and a poet, as mentioned. I have been published now 8 times and counting. My book is self-published through Amazon and quickly became a number 1 bestseller in under 24 hours of its original release. And I first got into writing as something more than a hobby, fresh out of my undergrad from Queen's University. I was visiting a friend in Ottawa, and during this time I was super into journaling. So one day I had asked her if she wanted to read an entry that I had written, and she essentially told me that it read like poetry and that I should consider writing a book. And initially I was kind of dumbfounded. I was like, why would anybody want to read my writing? I've never actually explored writing before, aside from academically during my time in my undergrad. So it was a different opinion that I hadn't, a different perspective that I hadn't considered before. But she gave me the idea, and once something's in my head, I'm very headstrong on wanting to get it done or at least give it a fair shot. So I gave it a shot, and now we're here. And it quickly took off. It started off as something that I didn't know if I would see through, but we saw it through, and I'm very happy.
Well, that segues into my next question. Who or what first made you realize writing was more than a hobby for you?
Definitely my best friend, who I had mentioned. Her name is Victoria. I met her in university, and she was actually an editor for the Queen's University magazine called Muse. And she had kind of told me she went to an arts high school. She had told me about her writing previously. So when I was first complimented by her just reading my journal entry, I was like, wait, like a real writer herself is telling me that this is good. This was the first time that somebody other than like close friends or my mom, who, I find can be a little bit biased because I'm her daughter. This is the first time that somebody with, I guess you could say, like writing credibility actually told me that my work had a lot of potential. And so after hearing that, I was like, if you say so. So she definitely inspired me to take that route. And I am so glad that she did.
Now, when you think back on your early writing, what themes or ideas were already present that you now see in your work currently?
Ooh, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of grief, a lot of loss. When I initially had started journaling, it was to release those thoughts that I couldn't always speak aloud, or that were kind of, I guess you could say, a little more embarrassing or a little more personal. So yeah, definitely a lot of heartbreak, a lot of things that I was struggling to navigate. I found it was a lot easier to write it out, and then it kind of like left my shoulders. So I started off with this book focusing on grief, heartbreak naturally. And then obviously through practice makes perfect, I stuck with it. So now I automatically find myself I now automatically find myself leaning towards like focusing on those categories. Sorry, take two. Now I find myself leaning towards writing about anxiety and grief and womanhood and loss a lot more frequently. It kind of just comes very naturally, but it almost got me into a point where I was like, I don't know how to write about being happy or the good times or joy. So I'm running with it. I'm like, okay, so grief is my style and I'm great at it, and that's okay.
You write under a pen name, Saray Nichole. How has becoming Saray Nichole shaped or protected the person behind it?
Ooh, so funny enough, I originally picked Saray Nichole because it was my Instagram handle. I find Saray hard to pronounce for a lot of people, and my last name, which is actually Toker, is also hard to pronounce based on like the spelling alone. I get that a lot. And my mom is my biggest inspiration. Her name, as you mentioned, is Nicole, so that's why it's my middle name. So I was like, let's give the people at least one part of my name that is easier to pronounce. And I just like the way that it flowed better. So, Saray Nichole, I like what I'm hearing, I like what I'm seeing, and now she's stuck. So I feel like when I'm identifying as Saray Nichole, I really feel like this is my author self in comparison to how those closest might see me, or like friends and family. I feel like I get to make this who I want to be, if that makes sense.
I agree. I like it.
Thank
You're very open about living with ADHD, anxiety, and depression.
Yes.
How did navigating those realities shape the process of writing and finishing your first book?
Ooh, it was honestly, it was an ongoing uphill battle. I've dealt with anxiety and depression for a long time, mainly anxiety and then depression as I got into my teenage years. And my ADHD practically went undiagnosed for most of my life. I would say my ADHD probably took precedence for most of the time that I was writing my book, just because I get distracted very easily. So when I want to set my mind to something, I'll have the whole idea planned out. But the second that something else comes into my mind, I'm usually like, I'm one way and then I'm the next way. And I feel like a lot of projects don't always get finished, but I wasn't doing it just for myself. I was doing it for people to be able to relate to. And I was like, I know there's so many people who struggle with anxiety, depression, mental health in general. And I'm sure that they would love to know that the author that they're reading from deals with that personally, because it just creates a different kind of rapport and connection between author and reader. So it was hard, but it was definitely worth it in the end to be able to give somebody that courage to write a book or to read from a stance where they can actually relate to and not feel like it's something they have to swallow down or hide.
Now, you identify as a Black Canadian poet, and your work often explores identity, heritage, and belonging. How has your experience growing up in a racial, multi-race family shaped the way you see yourself and your voice as a writer?
That's a really good question. Okay, that's a loaded question. Okay, give me 1 second. Oh, that's a lot to unpack.
And I mean, full disclosure,
Mhm.
obviously, I know your mom, right?
Yes.
I grew up with your mom. I know your mom and I danced on a TV show called Electric Circus.
Yes.
So you can tease your mom about that after the interview about that. Has she shown you footage about that, by the way?
Sure
I'm
has.
digressing.
Sure
Okay.
has. You guys
Well,
look, you were having a time.
and I'll show you some photos after the interview too. So anyways, I bring that
Mhm.
up just to know that obviously, I know your mom
Yes.
is Caucasian. I hadn't had the pleasure of meeting your dad. But that being said, so I'm just curious, what makes you make that decision, which I know is probably a very important decision for you.
Yes. So growing up in my household, I grew up with only the white side of my family. My dad was out of my life at a very early age, and we have not had a relationship since. He actually recently passed. Rest in peace. Yes. So I grew up in a predominantly white household, and I also grew up in many small towns where I was typically, I want to say, one of 5 Black students in the entire school. And that really did affect me. Not as much when I was honestly younger. I didn't really see a big difference. And again, because I grew up in a Caucasian household, it was kind of more natural, I guess you could say, to me to find myself in those environments. Going into high school was a little bit more difficult, trying to navigate spaces where I found that I fit in, because again, I was in a small town and I was probably one of, maybe let's give it now, 10 Black students or POC students, people of color students. And that in itself was quite an experience. And then I went to Queen's University, and during my time at Queen's was actually when I found more of my community and started, like, as in the Black community, and started feeling as though I didn't have to sort of pick a side or pick a space where I belonged. I felt like, okay, I have a good amount of people from both communities where I feel like I can fit in and find myself in spaces that I hadn't before. Accepted and understood and proud, to be honest. So when it came to writing my author bio, historically speaking, the Black community has been a lot more marginalized in terms of publication, in terms of outreach, in terms of audience, and in terms of acceptance as a whole in the writing community. They do not have a lot of representation. And I find a lot of times that obviously when somebody asks me regarding my background and what I am, they can tell in a sense that I'm mixed, usually with white. I get that a lot. So the one thing that I feel like I constantly having to kind of put out there is that I'm mixed with Black when people are asking me. So in order to honestly represent the Black community, I chose to identify as a Black Canadian author. So, I took a stance and I ran with it, and I feel confident in that decision, and that's how I identify. And that's it's not a matter of not addressing the fact that I'm biracial. It's more so just addressing what I feel as though needs to be spoken about.
I can tell you really put some thought into that answer, and I appreciate you really walking myself and the public through it. I could tell you really have put a lot of thought into that.
Thank you.
You mentioned you're in a traditional creative phase. How are you deciding what your next major project will be?
Oh, that's good. Yes. So right now I am kind of doing more freelance writing. I've taken a stronger focus to promoting and marketing my book and really pushing sales and pushing it out there. And the only way to do that is to advocate for myself and to network. So I've wanted to draw all my attention over to what has been released versus what is still in the making. I have a lot of ideas, and having such a, I guess you could say, creative mind, there's countless ideas. Like every day I wake up and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll write about this next. Maybe I'll write about this next. Maybe I'll do this for my part 2. Maybe I'll explore a different genre. So right now I'm just trying to navigate, or honestly narrow down those ideas and what feels right in the moment. But I have a few different projects that I am exploring, some that can't be named, some very exciting things coming up. But yeah, so right now I'm just mainly focusing on submitting and getting better. So just, writing as much as I can, trying out different styles, trying out different genres. Honestly, I think the only way to really get better as a writer is to get out of that comfort zone that you're used to. So yes, I do love talking about grief. I do love writing about loss and heartbreak and all that stuff, but I also want to learn how to write about the good experiences that I go through, even though I haven't necessarily figured out how just yet. So yeah, just submitting, publishing, querying, all of that. So I have now been published 8 times by different literary journals and magazines across North America and the UK. So it's been an uphill battle once again, as it always is. You face so much rejection in the writing community and honestly in art in general. I feel like a lot of artists, they'll tell you how much rejection they face on a daily basis. I would say for every one acceptance that I get, I've probably faced like 20 rejections. It's really just about what the editor is looking for at that time. And that's not up to you. You can't decide that. So you just have to keep on submitting. That's what I've been doing.
Now, how do you approach the tension between giving yourself space to grow and the pressure to produce new work?
That's a good question that I'm also currently navigating. I try to give myself a lot of grace. So if I'm having a day where I'm like, nothing is coming to mind, I can't get my thoughts out right, I'll just put the laptop down, because you're not going to produce your best work in that moment. And I just have to be confident in knowing that maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and I'll have a different experience and we'll try again. So if I'm not feeling it, I try not to push myself, because I would rather write about something that comes to mind that I'm passionate about and I'm confident on, rather than just sitting in front of a computer screen and trying to come up with something, because you can tell when you have the momentum and the flow naturally versus when you're just trying to get something down on paper. But one thing that I find that I do that is funny between me and my friend Victoria area, is that when something does come to mind, sometimes I will have a half-formed thought or concept, or I'll have like a one-liner that I'm like, oh, that's really good. So I'll write it down in my iPhone Notes app. So my iPhone Notes app has like 60 notes of some short inquiries and some like longer paragraphs or stanzas, and some are so dramatic and some are so wild and out there, but sometimes I'll like go through it and pick one and be like, okay, I see where I was going with this. So I always try to write down as much as I can when an idea comes to mind. Sometimes I have no idea what I was writing about 2 days ago in those notes, but it's really good to look back on, and I think it's gotten me pretty far so far. So
Freelancing, submitting to journals, networking. How do these activities shape your writing life and your sense of creative identity?
oh, that is also an excellent these questions have been amazing.
Look, I got you. Like, I have the honor of interviewing you here. I gotta come correct. I gotta come
No, these questions are really making me think, and I love that. I feel like
genuine enthusiasm, Saray.
absolutely. Absolutely. You're right, Trevor. My mistake.
And my I don't want to embarrass myself in front of George.
Never, never. You cannot embarrass yourself in front of George. Honestly, like you said, between networking and submitting and honestly inquiring with editors and trying to get as much feedback as I can, which is limited in the literary community, I take every rejection and every comment very seriously. And I just use it as momentum. And I've had to honestly train my brain from going, rejection means that your work isn't good enough, to going, rejection means that you're one step closer. So now I find myself actually genuinely celebrating when I get a rejection, because I'm like, okay, you're one step closer to getting in that door, and when you do finally get this accepted by somebody, it's going to be the right place. And when I get a rejection, I just know that, okay, now I know this agency is not looking for this sort of material. So I mentally will exit that out and move on to the next. So it's all just about trying and learning and getting better, rejection by rejection and edit by edit and revision by revision. You just have to keep on writing and keep going, as hard and as challenging as it may be.
Now, what's one lesson you've learned about persistence? What's one lesson you learned about Okay, start again. What's one lesson you've learned about persistence, presence, or self-advocacy in the literary world?
Ooh, all three are so, so, so important. Persistence is key. If you're not persistent, if you don't keep up at it, let's say in terms of networking your book, if you're not persistent with it, if you don't advocate for yourself, your book will just sit on the shelf, because how are people supposed to know about it unless you're practically screaming it from the rooftops? Again, with persistency, if I let myself go through a phase of not writing, I have to know that I have something on the back burner that's coming, because again, with ADHD, where that comes into play, if I put something down for too long, I may not pick it back up. So it's all about keep going, keep going. I'm always emailing, I'm always networking, I'm even now in conversation with other writers, other authors, other radio show hosts and open mic nights, all of that kind of stuff. So really just expanding my community and focusing on making those kind of connections that will push me further rather than keep me where I am.
Many of our listeners, viewers, are inspiring writers. What's one piece of advice you'd give about navigating the creative process while managing mental health challenges?
Ooh. One thing that I would highly recommend is write about what you want to write about what you believe people want to hear or people want to read. I think I struggled with this myself quite a bit, even in the initial process and the initial thinking process of, can I really self-publish a book? And like I mentioned earlier, who would want to read that? But you just have to remember, you would read it. And if you would read it, then it's good enough to believe that somebody else would take the chance to read it, because, why wouldn't they? Somebody needs to hear your words. And if you have something that you're passionate about, you have to go after that. It's not about trying to reach the most amount of target sales or audience. It's just about believing in yourself and believing that you can start and finish something that you've dreamt of. So if you're an aspiring writer or an aspiring author, whatever the case may be, whatever your passion is or your creativity is. Honestly, as cheesy as it sounds, just go for it and give it a fair, honest shot and give it your all and make it good.
Long term, you said you hope to be remembered as someone who gives readers one more day. Can you elaborate on what that means to you?
Yes, absolutely. So, as much as I do discuss grief and loss and womanhood and mother daughter relationships and countless friendships, relationships throughout my book, a really big thing that I wanted to push in for my readers was the advocacy for mental health and the discussion of mental health and the idea behind the idea of you don't have to have it all figured out in order to be good at something. You don't have to hide the struggles that you go through in order to come across a certain way to other people. And I just think acknowledging that and making space for that is so incredibly important. So my idea of one more day comes from my struggles with depression and anxiety. And I have found myself in periods of my life where I've watched a movie or listened to a song or read a book or even came across a poem or a quote that honestly just got me through the night. You know, you have moments where you're overwhelmed or you're anxious or you're in a depressive episode or manic, whatever that might look like. And sometimes you just need one person or thing or passion or creative outlet to keep you going for one more day. So my goal is first, my dream, I guess you could say, is to be that person for other people when they just are able to pick up my book in times of strife or in times of struggle and go, finally, somebody who oh my goodness. Finally, somebody who understands where I'm coming from and I feel seen. And like, I don't have to swallow down those emotions to please everybody else or swallow down what I'm experiencing just in order to come across a certain way to people or to protect that identity, to protect that image. So I want people to be able to pick that up in times where they feel uncertain of themselves and just be remembered that you don't have to have it all figured out, but somebody else was able to accomplish a dream of theirs even while not having it figured out or not having a clue on where to start, you know? So if I could give somebody one more day just based off of a line that they've read or a poem that touched them or a page that, you know, stuck out to them and made them feel like they were less alone, then I've done my job as an author.
Are there any lines or pieces from your own work that hold that kind of power or have had that effect on readers already?
Yes. Yes. I'm going to find the page if you could just give me 1 second. Not to be biased, there are quite a few pages, of course, in my book where I feel like they've made a lasting remark on myself. Specifically, there we go. So this is very personal to me. On pages 6 and 7 of excerpts of my journal, I discussed the home of my grandparents and the idea of laying parts of myself to rest there. So my grandparents' house was always like my second home, and I discussed that. And being able to pick this up whenever I want to and be able to read it just is so nostalgic for me and heals something within me also because my grandfather passed. And obviously I'm writing about his home and I describe it in great detail, like what it looked like and all about like my cousins and I growing up there and how sentimental that is. And now being able to see it in a hardcover, seeing that come to life, seeing that idea come to life is just incredible. It is an incredible feeling. And I find whenever I am missing pieces in pages 6 and 7 of excerpts from my journal, I write about the home of my grandparents and the idea of laying parts of myself to rest. And my grandfather passed away a few years ago, and that was a very hard time for me to navigate. So being able to write about that and keep it in a safe space like a book for me was something very sentimental and something that I hold very dearly. So just like the rest of my pages, obviously, since it's all very personal to me, whenever I find myself just needing to feel a piece of home or needing to remember him fondly, I get to pick this up and remember that I did that job and I honored him in these pages. So that is something that I'm very proud of and that touches me. So I I read those pages quite frequently.
Now, how do you measure the impact of your writing beyond sales or recognition?
Beyond sales or recognition, you know what? I have had a lot of people private message me, a lot of friends, peers, and honestly, people who I have never met before. I've had a lot of people come to me personally and share their experiences or share their very personal experiences that they have also had trouble navigating or figuring out, and have told me that through my book and through being able to find pieces of in my pages, it has healed those parts of them it has healed those parts of them that they have struggled to heal previously. Just hearing that is an incredible feeling, and it's honestly indescribable to know that something that I created and had no idea of how far I'd be able to take it has had such a lasting impact on people to where, they've felt the need to personally reach out to me. That's again an indescribable feeling, and it makes everything so worthwhile. And even if it was just one person that had come forward and told me that I had really helped them in times of struggle, it would make all the difference. And that's what really pushes me to keep going. I've had a lot of positive feedback also via social media. So I write a lot on this blog called Medium, and I'm an inside writer for a lot of different inside publications on Medium. And I get a lot of positive feedback there as well, a lot of personal comments. And I read every single comment. I respond to every single person who's ever messaged me. I never want to turn into somebody who just, is doing it for the wrong reasons or for the sales or for the attention. No, I feel very connected to my readers, and I love that. So that keeps me going all the time.
What does success look like for you now? And how has that definition changed over time?
Success for me now, honestly, just again, going back to the idea of creating a rapport and connection with so many people and being able to impact people's lives with honestly just writing. It used to be, again, something that I just did academically and I would succeed on, and that kind of looked like success in writing for me prior. And when the whole book was coming together, my idea of success was just being able to finish it, to be honest, to see through that project. And that was a really big thing for me. And success now, again, is knowing that I am reaching people and I'm touching them for the right reasons, and that I'm making a difference, even if it's just by one person feeling as though they've been able to find themselves within the pages that I've written. So success now looks a lot different than it did before, but for all the better.
I hope you don't mind. I have a little surprise for you. Your mom, let me introduce you to her, Nicole, is here with us today.
Oh my goodness. I was not expecting this. I'm so sorry if you saw my face. That was a genuine surprised reaction. Hello, mother. How are you?
Hi, Saray. I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Hi,
good.
Nicole. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you, Trevor? Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Genuine Enthusiasm. Thank you for
Thank you.
providing your daughter for this interview. Like your
Thank
agent.
you.
Yes, my momager.
Now,
Yes,
so
yes,
I've heard a little bit about your daughter so far, but
yes.
let's get some information from you.
Oh, gosh.
And obviously, I've heard a lot about your daughter through you and our conversations.
Yes.
What was it like watching her grow into the poet and writer that she is today?
Wow. It's been quite a remarkable journey. I think as a parent, when your child is born, every parent believes that their child is going to grow up into like this remarkable person. And most of the time that is truth or whatever. But it's a whole different experience, a little bit surreal to actually watch your child accomplish their dreams and get to be a part of it. And I am very fortunate that I have, been through this experience with Saray. So I feel very honored, but it's something it's hard to put into words, but I'm very proud. It's a very proud moment, and I'm happy to share alongside her journey. Yeah. You want as a parent, I want to shout it from the rooftops, but at the same time, like I'm very humble, and I know she works really hard for it, and I watch her sacrifice a lot of herself to make her dreams come true. And I'm proud of, don't make me cry. I'm proud of the woman
Wait,
that
I need
she's
you both
turned
to
into.
cry. I need you both to cry. I need the clip. I need the clip. Come on, keep going.
I mean, I probably will cry, but yeah, it's remarkable. It's amazing. And like Yeah, because you see your child along the journey, and like Saray had some, obstacles growing up, and Saray, believe it or not, didn't even talk till she was over 3 or walk, and she overcame so many obstacles in life, and I knew that she was going to accomplish all her dreams because when she was allowed to express herself, like nothing stopped her. She walked into a dance studio with no dance experience and told them like she was going to make the competition team, and she did with no previous dance experience. Or she auditioned once for the premiere program, which was a spin on Disney, and they had a lot of Disney actors, and she made it in the top 10 out of 75,000 kids from 18 countries. So I knew that she was going to be somebody, and she always told me that. So I feel very honored, as I shared. Yeah.
You kind of answered my next question, but I'll get you to kind of emphasize it a little bit. Like, how has her mom, did you notice early on any moments or traits that hinted she'd be drawn to writing and sharing her voice with the world?
Yeah, when Saray was little, well, she was always drawn into like writing stories, and she would go to my parents' house and make up these little stories about her and her friends, or her and her sibling, and like just different things like that. And I knew that she kept a journal, and I knew it was something that she really dove into, and it was a passion of hers. And then after she shared the first poem with me, I was like, "Wait, did you write this?" And I remember asking her like,
Did.
"No, what, did you
Did.
seriously write this?"
Yes.
Because, I knew in high school, like, I took creative writing. I had all my OACs in writing. I really enjoyed it, but, like, her and I had never shared that, and I didn't really know when Saray was a teenager that she had a passion in it. So then to see her, like, a year and a half ago start this journey and really dive into it, and then every time I would read a poem, I had to stop because I was crying so much. It was really it was really nice to see, but no, at first I did not know that she was really as, really as creative as she is. And then when I read the whole when I was a part of it and got to be an editor, like, it was amazing to see through the eyes of her and just how much about Saray I learned in that.
Also would like to say she really did cry during every single poem that I would send her. And it got to a point, like, of course, I was new to writing. So every time I wrote something, I would be like, I look up to my mom a lot. And I see her as a very wise, professional, also creative person. So when it comes, she used to edit my essays in high school. She would edit like any assignments that I had. So I trust her judgment. So when I first started like writing the poems out, I would always go to her and be like, "Do you like this? Is this actually good or is this just in my head?" And she would always be like, "Did you really write this on your own?" And at first I was offended. Like, "What do you mean you're asking me if I wrote this on my own? Of course I wrote this on my own. Like, you didn't know I had it in me, clearly." And then as I kept going, and obviously as you keep writing, your writing's expected to get better. So as I kept going, I found that my poems went from like amateur to, okay, this girl's serious. And as I got into that, I guess you could say serious category, every single poem that I was sharing, she was like, "I just need a minute. I just need a second. Like, wow, this is really," she'd be bawling her eyes out to the point where she would start asking me towards the end of the process, "What is it about? Because if it's about Y or Z, I can't read it right now. I'm working and I can't cry and I have makeup on." So I was like, once I started getting the waterworks
Yeah.
continuously, I was like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm good at this."
We're not done with Nicole yet, your mom yet. What's one piece of advice or encouragement you've given her that you hope she carries with her in her creative journey?
Well, that's a good one. Probably just that, it's cheesy, but it's true, like, always remain true to you. I think one thing I've always tried to enforce with Saray and her sister is just always remaining humble and staying true to themselves, and remember that, everybody has a story and you have a story to share. Go out and share it with the world, and don't be afraid. And yeah, I've always just encouraged her, again, just to be true to herself. And even if she just if one young person picks up her book and is inspired by a poem and somehow it helps them feel better about their own journey, then in my world, that you've made a difference. And I couldn't ask for anything more. Just really to remain true to her and, don't change anything about you.
Did you want to say anything to your mom before we kick her out respectfully out of the interview?
Love you. Love you so much. And I couldn't have done any
I
of
love
this
you.
without you. As you know, literally 25 of my poems are about my mom. So, we're locked in, and she's not actually exaggerating. She's always told me since I first came to her and told her I'm going to LA one day and I'm never going to look back. She's always been that mom who has encouraged me to chase my dreams and follow them no matter how big, no matter how small. When I told her I wanted to live abroad in Germany, she said go. She cried, but she said go. When
I ugly cried.
when I told her I wanted to be on the Ellen DeGeneres show when I was like 11,
Yes.
like, okay, and I'll film it for you. So no matter how big,
We did.
no matter how small, she's always been right there telling me that I can do it and that I can accomplish it. And honestly, now I tell so many people who are like, I don't even know where to start in terms of dreams, that make sure you have a strong support system. And when somebody tells you that they believe in you, you need to take that and run, and you need to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Because, your support system is everything. And if I didn't have my mom's encouragement, I definitely would not be where I am today.
Will there ever be a day that you do an entertainment piece about New Kids on the Block?
Me?
Absolutely.
Are you asking if I will ever do it?
I'm asking, what would you do if you ended up getting a job at an entertainment magazine and you had
my
to do a
God.
piece about New Kids on the Block?
If I had to write a piece about New Kids on the Block, I would advocate for, and honestly beg for my mother to be able to be present for that experience. I don't think she would ever
Thank you.
forgive me if I didn't. So I would honestly probably have to interview her and ask her, like, girl, what am I getting myself into? Who are these people? Like,
Yes,
are
there you
they
go.
legit? Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, she would have to take along. I would have to owe her everything in that moment. Absolutely.
All right. Well,
Thank
thank
you,
you,
Saray.
Nicole, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, Mom.
We're going to wrap
Bye. I
up.
love you.
Love you.
All right. So as we wrap up with you, we have some rapid questions for you. This is the lightning round. All right. I need you to give me short responses to this. Okay.
Okay.
What book, poem, or artist is currently inspiring you?
I feel like I had this. No.
Should just be off the top of your head. Don't overthink it.
I know, but I am. And now I'm thinking I currently inspire me. Okay, I'm going Anna Huang.
Morning person or night owl when writing?
Night owl, for sure. I do all of my writing at night.
Favorite writing ritual or indulgence?
I actually can't disclose that on camera.
Okay. What word you like? What word you use to describe the season of your creative life?
Transitional.
Before we wrap up, where can listeners find your work and follow your journey?
Okay, if you would like to get yourself a copy of excerpts from my journal, you can find it on any Amazon platform, so Amazon worldwide. You can also find it on Indigo online, Guelph Indigo. If you would like to follow on my journey, feel free to follow me on Instagram at saray.nichole. I also have a Medium account, which I believe is Saray Nichole Poetry.
For those watching the watch party of this interview, I am going to buy a book of my lovely, amazing guest, and I'm going to do a contest. And the question is for those to put it in the chat. The first person to put the answer to this question will get the book that I am buying off of Amazon
So cool.
to send to one lucky reader. Do you know what the question I'm going to ask the viewers is?
No idea.
What is the name of the rubber ducky behind me that our amazing guest gave it? What is the name
There we go.
of this rubber ducky? Because if you know the name, then we know you watched the interview from start to finish. You give the correct answer. You're the first person in the chat to write this answer. You will get the latest book that I will buy off on Amazon to send to that lucky reader.
I love that. That's a great idea.
Now, I am giving you a bonus question. It's sort of become my trademark question that I ask all my guests. Okay. You're in an elevator. someone meets you in the elevator for the first time, what is your elevator spiel about who you are and what you're all about? Now, the rule or the small print of this question is you get to decide how big or small the building is that the elevator's in.
Okay. Okay.
Meaning that if you have a longer answer, you can say you're in the CN Tower.
Okay.
If you don't maybe want to say a lot,
Oh, okay. For the elevator ride duration. Okay,
it's
got
your
it.
elevator spiel.
Got it. Okay. I'm going to say that we are in a condo and we are going up to the 40th floor to get oddly enough together. Okay. My name is Hi, nice to meet you. Lovely meeting you. You smell really good. My name is Sarai Nichole. I am 23 years old and I am a Black Canadian author, writer, and poet. And I currently am the author of the #1 Amazon bestseller in anxiety excerpts from my journal. Period.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for doing this podcast with me. You were amazing. Thank you for, I've learned so much. I hope you liked our surprise guest. I think you know her well.
Absolutely. I actually was not expecting that at all. I was when she came in, I was like, "Girl, you got to get out of here. Like, what are you popping in for?" So that was a great time and almost made me I was starting to choke up on some tears, you know. I gotta remain strong, but you almost had me there. This has been an amazing experience. My first ever real interview. And you were lovely, and your questions were so well prepared. I just have to say that. So, I owe it all to the host and to the rubber duck who I cannot name at this time.
Yeah. So, yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
And
you.
thanks to everyone for watching.
Thank you so